Good. All right. Alrighty. Welcome, friends, alumni. We're coming at you live from Bethany College in the Bethany Club that really modeled a nice picture in the background. Welcome to Breakfast at Bethany. My name's Brian Sainer. We're going to be doing a couple of dishes today. We're going to be doing take on eggs in Purgatory and a soft polenta. A little background on myself is I've been working as a sous chef here at Bethany College for the last 11 years. So some of the alumni may have seen me around cooking different stations and whatnot in front of you in the dining room. I've also worked in the past through 22 different restaurants that I've started and developed and ran. I worked under a couple master chefs. I worked at 5-star, 5-diamond resort. Even had a little cooking segments we did for the local news. So if you want a good laugh, search on the internets and see if you can find some of those segments. They're pretty funny. They had a couple catchphrases they wanted me to say, like magic oven and the fat's where it's at. But yeah, I really didn't like saying a catchphrase. So I blame Emerald. But so back on what we're doing today, we're doing some breakfast. When we thought of this, we thought, if you're homecoming weekend, obviously most people have a couple drinks the night before. This dish would probably help you feel a little better in the morning. It's kind of some of the same ingredients as like a Bloody Mary, so you got eggs and sausage and whatnot. So hopefully it'll help you out if you had a couple beverages last night. So the first thing we're going to start making is our polenta, our soft polenta. And what you're going to need for that is 2 cups of chicken stock, 2 cups of milk, a couple tablespoons of butter, salt and pepper, a cup of polenta. And if you can't find polenta, you can use regular cornmeal, but polenta is just a little bit grittier, has a nicer texture. Salt and pepper and some Parmesan to finish it off. A really simple, lovely dish. Get this thing to light. So what we're going to do is get our chicken stock and milk simmering here. So as a kid growing up, my grandparents would always go to local restaurants and get this dish called fried mush. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. I see a couple people here nodding their heads. They know what fried mush is, but I never really knew what that is until I actually went to culinary school and found out it's polenta. It's a polenta that they've cooked a little more, made a little thicker, and either baked it or fried it, and then they put like some honey or maple syrup on it, and it's super delicious dish that you can have in the morning. So we're going to wait for this to simmer. Here, more milk in there. Like I said, it only takes a couple minutes. Get my whisk, and we kind of did this stuff so you can all cook along, so you don't have to stop or pause the video if you're watching this later after we've gone live, when this is on YouTube or whatever intranets there is. But so that way you can cook along right with this. When we do the other dish, you can cook along with that as well. It's kind of like the Julia movie, I guess, where she cooks along with Julia Childs. This is so when that starts to A little bit of simmer and bubbles. Now, if you wanted to make this vegetarian, you could use just vegetable stock and take out the milk and, 4 cups of vegetable stock. I use a little bit of both because that way you don't risk the chance of scorching the milk and burning the dish, which can happen real easily. Anytime you're using milk or cream, it seems like 1 second too long and it's burnt and, we got to start all over. And we definitely don't want to do that. So now this has come up to a little bit of a simmer. We're going to whisk our cornmeal in. And this is one of those dishes you don't want to leave set. You don't want to put it on there and forget about it, because all that cornmeal will go to the bottom of the pan and sit there and it'll burn, and you'll have milk sitting on top and cornmeal on the bottom, and that's no good. Let's get this guy going. All right. Switch over to so in a minute or two, what you're going to have is something that looks like mashed potatoes that aren't quite as thick, kind of like a mashed potatoes that are a little bit too runny, and that's what you want. Now, there's different types of polenta. Like we're doing a soft polenta today. You could do a hard polenta where you would add, where you take away a cup of liquid on either side of there, and that would make it a harder, firmer polenta, and that way you could pour it out into the pan, let it cool, and then that way you could fry it or bake it later on and make fried mush or a million other different things. We chose polenta to go along with this because the roots of eggs in Purgatory are Italian, Naples to be exact, so we wanted to have an Italian dish to go with it. If you just didn't want to have just, a big bunch of sauce and bread, that you have a little bit of something else to eat. All right, we're just about there. All right, so once we got that, see how it's bubbling away? You gotta look out, it's like a volcano. It will get you and it'll burn you. So be careful when it starts going like that. Turn your heat down a little bit. Then we're going to add our butter. This is where the last cooking segment I did would have to say the fat's where it's at, but we're going to not do that today. Let's go some butter in there. And again, if you wanted to make this vegetarian, there's soy butters out there, vegan butters out there that you could use as well. So butter's in there. Kind of makes it nice and silky. All right, that's all in there. A little bit more. Then we're going to add where's it at? All right, grated Parmesan. I think there's a 1/4 cup, it says, that we had in the recipe we sent out ahead of time. More if you want. So traditionally, this dish, they would just make a big pot of it and dump it out on the table, and everybody would just, get a little bowl and spoonful and eat it right there. But obviously, we're not going to do that today. So that little salt and pepper, and everything. All right. So mix that in. That's it. Easy. Anybody could make that for breakfast. I mean, I think it took, 4 or 5 minutes to make this dish start to finish. Simple, easy, something different. All right. So we got that. We'll let that sit. Now we'll move on to our eggs in Purgatory. What a romantic name, a creepy name. But really what what it really is they were taking their leftover sauce from the night before and poaching their eggs in that to make something different than just regular poached eggs poached in water. So a different different flavor, and spice something up. Obviously it's Purgatory, so that's hinting on heat and spice. There's myths and legends that it's supposed to talk about souls being in limbo and purgatory, and believe whatever you want to believe. I think it's a bit of just making a great story and romanticizing it. So like I said, traditionally it's just last night's sauce, and they're poaching eggs in it to make some breakfast and spicing it up a little bit. We're doing a little bit of a twist on it. We're making some with some chorizo. Before I get too far ahead, let me tell you about all the ingredients if you didn't see it ahead of time. What we're going to use is 4 ounces of chorizo with the casing removed, 2 cloves of garlic, half of a medium yellow onion, 1/4 cup of olive oil, 2 cups of spinach, half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, some salt and pepper, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, 6 eggs, grated Parmesan cheese, some basil, and some crusty bread. You could use ciabatta. I think we have a nice crusty Italian bread that we're going to use. So simple dish. We're kind of spicing it up and using a little bit of chorizo sausage. You can find this in most supermarkets in the section where there's sausage, like breakfast sausage or kibasi or things like that. You'll usually find some chorizo there. I like this stuff better than you can get with than you get in the tray that you would get for, like you would get your ground beef in a tray. I think this has a little bit more flavor than that type of chorizo, and it's a little more authentic. And chorizo sausage is a Spanish sausage. It's got some great flavors in there, cumin, a little bit of cayenne in there to spice it up since we're doing a spicy dish. I believe there's some cheese in there as well. Of course, different brands have different recipes, but it's a lovely, lovely sausage. You can get it in pork or beef. If you're going to make this a vegetarian dish, obviously not vegan, but vegetarian dish, you could obviously not use this at all. But I think it gives the dish a little bit of something, especially makes it more like an American breakfast where, American breakfast is thought of as like sausage, eggs, toast, and so we're kind of blending the cultures, which is kind of what this dish is, because it can be found in many different cultures. It's found in Middle Eastern cultures called shakashuka, I believe, or kurakaruka. And it's basically the same dish. Let me wipe off my knife here. Basically the same dish. It's just different flavor profiles. Like the Middle Eastern version would have some cumin, paprika, cayenne, whereas we don't have that in this dish, but we're going to get a little bit of that flavor in the chorizo. All right, so that's simmered, cooked down a little bit, and we're going to use the fat from that to cook our onion in. And our onions here that we get in the restaurant are actually jumbo, colossal onions, much larger than what you get at home, so I'm going to just use 1/4. But you at home would use about 1/2 onion to make our sauce here. All right. So, doesn't have to be pretty. Just want to get a small chop on it. You could always use the food processor. About 1/2 onion is going to go in there. Turn that back on. Just like that. We're going to let that simmer a couple seconds. And then after that simmers, gets a little translucent. Let me wipe off my knife again. All right. So after this simmers, gets a little translucent, that's when we'll add our garlic. We want to add it in a little bit closer to the end. That way we don't risk burning it and making the dish real bitter. Like that. Yep. So yeah, it's Eggs in Purgatory, like I said, is from Naples. But like I said, it's found throughout the Mediterranean. So each country kind of has their own different take on this dish, which is basically their leftover sauce poached with eggs poached in it. So at the very least, if you're cooking this in the morning, you're just waking up, all of the spices that are in that chorizo, you're going to be able to smell that and definitely wake you up, give you a little kick in the morning. So we've got our onions, cooking this on medium-high. Another 30 seconds or so, and we'll add a little bit of garlic in there. If you have the minced garlic, feel free to use that. Clove is about, we're going to use 2 cloves of garlic. A clove is about half of a teaspoon of garlic. If you're going to mince your own, you can mince your own. But I cut the top and bottom off my garlic bulbs so I can easily peel it. You can always do it the fun way and give it a little smack on the cutting board with your knife. Remove that. Turn this guy down. All right, peels. And take our garlic, quick chop. And you want to get it kind of, you don't have to be exactly a mince. It's okay to have a couple chunks in there. Some people even give that, how you call it, the slicers that they use for truffles and slice them like that, or on one of those contraptions you can buy at the cooking store that slices things real thin, but just a quick mince will do. Quick chop. So let that go. So 30 or 40 seconds. It's out of my way here. So that's going. Be ready for our tomato sauce, or crushed tomatoes, I should say. I mean, you could use whole tomatoes and crush them up by hand. I tend to look for San Marzano tomatoes are really good in Italian dishes. If you can find some San Marzano tomatoes, they really have a lot more flavor, I think, than just regular aromas. So our garlic sauteed for a couple seconds. Put our crushed tomatoes in there. We're going to turn it down about medium-ish. Trying not to get tomato sauce in my nice white chef jacket. It always happens. Anytime I open up something with tomatoes, I usually end up wearing it. So let this simmer for a few minutes. Then we're going to add some spinach, and we're going to chop up a little basil to throw in there too. And the spinach is just another kind of twist I'm putting on the dish today, kind of add a little more nutrient to it and make it a little bit more than just sauce and eggs. If you don't like spinach, you can obviously do it without spinach. No one's looking. I won't tell on you. So, is everybody keeping up at home? Trying to go a little slower than what we do at a restaurant. We'd already have this made probably 3 times already if we were doing it actually in the kitchen to order, but it takes a while to do things as fast as chefs do in the restaurants. That's simmering. This whole thing kind of reminds me of what my mom and sister have been doing throughout this whole COVID time being apart. My sister is in Cleveland right now, and my mom is in Toronto, Ohio, not Canada, but they're still a good couple hours apart, and they both love cooking, and they both love cooking like slow cookers, crock pots. So there's a great cookbook out there by America's Test Kitchen. Great cookbooks. I love what they do and how they write recipes. So I bought them each a cookbook, and what they've done every week is they go to a chapter, they pick a dish, and they get on the intranets and the Zoom calls or video calls, and they cook the dish together. So they're kind of doing something together, interacting together, and that way they don't feel so alone. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing they started doing all on their own. So I'm happy to be a part of this today with you. Hopefully you guys are at home and in good health, and going to eat some really good, really spicy food here in a couple seconds. All right, that's about ready. So, before we put that in, we'll put our, what do we say, about a half a teaspoon, quarter teaspoon, whatever you like. You know, if you want more, you can put more. You want less. Keep in mind, we got some chorizo in there if you're using it. That's going to add a little bit of heat to it as well. We don't want you to not be able to eat the dish because it's too spicy. So that's going in there. We'll get our spinach in there. I think I said 2 cups from the recipe. Loosely packed. You don't got to pack them in there. Just a couple good handfuls. And our basil. We'll just give this a rough little chop right here. Where's the other knife? Right down here. Rough chop of basil. Again, if you really like basil, add a little bit more. I'm telling you, no one's looking. I'll add a little more. So this is gonna wilt real quick, and then we can start adding our salt, pepper, eggs, and we'll be ready to start plating everything up. We are doing this live. Is there any questions anybody's popped up or anything? Nothing so far? I know it's early in the morning. So we're just getting this to wilt. I do got to say one thing, that you see this recipe, and especially photos of this recipe a lot. Put a little salt in there. A little pepper, and I see pictures of it in the cast iron pans, and I really wouldn't want to do this in a cast iron pan. A couple reasons is because anything very acidic like tomatoes, or if anything vinegars, you cook in a cast iron pan, it can start to rust your cast iron pan and ruin your cast iron pan. It'll take off that nice finish that you work so hard to keep that cast iron pan non-stick. And the second thing is, it starts pulling the flavor out of the pan. You can actually taste metal in the sauce that you make. So definitely, if you're using something with acid, you want to try and use a stainless steel pan. Maybe use one of the Teflon pan, so you don't get that metallic taste or ruin your pan. So just wanted to bring that point up. I think they do it because the food stylists and think the cast iron pans look great, and they do look great in the photo, but that's not going to taste great, and we'd rather have it taste great than look extra fancy. So this is simmering away, and then we're going to crack our eggs right in there. Right on top. I'll let it simmer. So 6 eggs, usually 1 per person is good. If you only got 5 people, you can do 5 eggs. them in there. All right, do that. Get my hands off here. All right, so we'll let that simmer. It'll probably take, depends on how you like your poached egg, about 3 to 8 minutes. You know, if you want it almost hard-boiled, fully cooked yolk, you probably want to go about 8 minutes. You know, if you want the egg yolk a bit runny, you could just do 3 minutes, whatever you like. Like I said, I ain't gonna tell on you. All right. If you wanted to speed it up, you can always put a lid on it. Use some of the steam from the sauce to finish that up, but I think my lid's a little hair too small. Let's see. Yeah, this guy will fit. There we go. The old polenta quick little stir here while it's working. All right, everybody keeping up? For the magic of TV, we also did one a little earlier here, just in case this didn't work out, because you're doing something live, you never know. It's sometimes stuff doesn't work, or you can't get the burner to work, and bad things can happen. So you could top it off a little more basil, a little shredded Parmesan cheese. If you don't have shredded, you can always use the grated Parmesan cheese. Again, completely up to you. Like I said, I ain't sending the food police to your house. So about another minute. We'll see, I got some plates. Well, that's going. Slice some bread. And this is always good to sop up some of that extra sauce. I've seen this dish made kind of like a strata, and a strata is kind of like an omelet, but they dice up large chunks of bread in the bottom, toast them up, and then kind of put the omelet on top of that, so it's this crusty on the bottom, eggs on top. So you could definitely do it like that. You could do it on the side. It would definitely work with the strata like this, especially if you toasted some of the diced bread and that sausage. That would be super delicious. We'll see how we're doing here. Almost ready. And when you do cooking demos, it seems like you've been talking for hours and really only 2 minutes go by. It's fascinating how that actually happens. But had a little experience doing that. Like I said, I did a couple cooking shorts back in the day when I was a younger, thinner man. And I actually was a chef instructor for a culinary school in Pittsburgh for 3 years. So it was a lot of fun teaching young chefs in the field, showing them different tips and tricks and secrets. That was always something we did daily, is we would show them how to do it and then give them a little bit extra on, like, this is why or this is how. And I would always say, oh, Chef Secret, come over, and they'd all huddle around, and I'd show them. In one class, at their very last day, right before they went to graduate, they all gathered around, and they actually got a little book that they made, Chef Brian's Chef Secrets, and they had that and gave me one and gave one to all of their classmates, so they had it to as they went out in the field. So I thought that was really nice, kind of touching that hey, someone was actually paying attention to me babbling away. So yeah, a little bit of fuzz here. So as much polenta as you want. Try to scoop out an egg here. Do it. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a shame you can't smell in here because, oh my goodness, if you could smell it, it's so spicy and delicious, and you could just the aroma. Put some of that on there. Used up all my basil, so I'll put a little bit of, tear a little bit of this up, put on top, make it look fancy. Yeah. Some crusty bread. Oh, there you go. That's what I'm having for breakfast. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to me babble and had fun making this eggs in Purgatory and polenta dish. It was a pleasure to host this, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks again.